When you were leading and you had some of those, those your subordinates or those that were working with you that really experienced some troubles through emotions, through some of that, how did you help navigate them through that when you were all in that as well?
Right. I think at NASA, especially, we talk about self-care being a huge part of team care. And so, making sure I do this in my regular life too, but, making sure that you're getting enough rest, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and your personal life so that you can truly be present for the other people that need you. Right. And I think being present for others is one of the biggest things that you can do. They may not need a ton of help or they may not need the solution, but being there, being available, and being present for people is really important. But you can't do that unless you're good to go yourself.
Did you see that from someone? Did you learn that from someone you saw doing that, or just NASA? You said NASA brings that up, but did you see that at the academy, or where did you kind of gather that?
I think one of the things that hit me hard about showing up and being present was more professional. So. I kind of like skated through the academy on minimal sleep, and I was able to manage everything and do okay at everything, but I wasn't flying a $143 million airplane, right?
True.
And so, in pilot training is we started to talk about crew rest and in pilot rest. And like, that's the first time that I had kind of heard this concept of like, you need to go home and get rest so that you can be on your game, because flying airplanes, your decisions have real consequences, right? And you have to be present and available, and you have to be on your game to fly airplanes and do well in airplanes. And then the faster and the higher and the better the airplane gets, the more on your game you have to be. So I think it's something that has just kind of evolved in me. And then as a leader, I realized if you don't have any gas in the tank, you cannot help somebody else.
Right.
And so for me, it's just kind of been, over the last decade and a half of like, wow, I need my sleep. I need to make sure I'm good to go. I need to make sure my human is good so that way I can help other humans. And when your decisions have real consequences, it's important that you're present and you're ready to go.
Have you seen some of the fact that you prioritize that for yourself, for you as your own human? Have you seen others kind of like see that, view that, and actually take that on as well themselves?
Yeah, I think they do. And I think as a leader, it's really important to set that example, right? The commander cannot be the first one in, last one out. Like, you just can't do that because everybody's going to stay until you leave. So setting the example of having a good home life balance as well, like home and work have to be balanced, sleep has to be balanced. Like, again, self-care is the biggest part of team care, I think. And if you model that, people start to realize it's important. The younger people that might burn themselves out trying to get somewhere, or trying to get to the next step, or trying to impress somebody, or whatever the case may be, if they see you taking a step back and they see your success, maybe then they can start worrying about themselves too. So
I think that's a great lesson, leading by example for sure. There are probably moments that you experience both at the academy, while flying the F-22 or as an astronaut, where you don't have the luxury of balance. How do you navigate that, and how do you help others, get to that space maybe quicker?
Right. I think of everything as a season in life. It might just be a busy season, and you might just have to put some time in, but making sure that you are planning ahead and know that you're going to be able to take some time and reset. And that could be anything, right? That could be personal life, professional life. That could be, the 4-week training trip that we've got is going to be rough, and it's multiple time zones, and it's a ton of training. It's a ton of information. You just have to get through it. But then, that week when we got home, I made sure my schedule was a little lighter. Whatever the balance is, I think of things in seasons, and, crew 10 can do hard things, right? And that came from like, you can get through this next training session, right? But like, we're going to do a mask to suit transition, which is like in a fire, you've got a mask on, you have to get from that mask into your spacesuit. It's a significant physical event. And there's limited oxygen, there's limited ability to breathe in the suit when in that specific environment. And so how do you slow down, take the breaths you need to get in there, to not then get to a point where you're panicking,
right? Or
that you're too exhausted or too hot or overdid or whatever it is, right? So I think even just that is a season. We're going to do 2 hours of this. That's my season. And then we'll get out of the simulator and we'll take a break, right? And if it happened on orbit, right, it would be like, we're going to get through this. We're going to solve the problem. We're going to manage the emergency. And then once things are set, we'll have a moment to breathe.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I think of it. And
I
it
like
could be
that.
Small
seasons.
Or large seasons. But
right.
Yeah.
Did seasons come a term that you kind of realized maybe at the academy? You were a volleyball athlete at the academy, and so volleyball has a season. But I guess my question is like, how did you come to that realization? Like, oh, I can get through this, and I put it in a bucket of time almost in a season.
Yeah, I think it is. You learn a lot of time management at the academy, and when you're in the fall, you're really busy. Spring season is less busy, and so you kind of learn early how to manage. Like, okay, I got to run, I got to sprint,
right,
and then I can jog later or I can walk later. So I think you learn that growing up in school, and if you play sports or you do extracurricular activities or other things like that, or even just seasons in life at home, right? Life ebbs and flows, and so and then. I don't even know when I started saying it, but my sister and I started saying seasons of life to each other a long time ago. She's got 3 kiddos, so she's been in all sorts of seasons. But yeah, it's just I think I started to time block things or block things off, and just and that's the only way you're going to get through life is if you focus on what you need to do right now, be good at it, and then move to the next thing. Like you can have an idea of what's coming next, but you have to be present and do what you're doing there.
Yes.
So seasons, time blocks, whatever you want to call it.
I like that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this leadership lesson, watch the full episode by hitting the thumbnail here, and subscribe now to get the latest episodes of Long Blue Leadership delivered directly to your YouTube feed or wherever you get your podcasts.